One thing that really stood out to me in recent months is this adoption of something called a positionality statement. I don't know if you've heard of this before.
No.
So this is a statement now that researchers, including scientists, have to include in their research papers. And it basically discusses their race, their sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, all of their personal characteristics, traits, like basically identity markers, as a way to, I guess, apologize if they're white, which is something white people should not have to do, especially if you're in the sciences. You shouldn't have to talk anything about your personal life,
Right.
because that has no bearing on what you're doing or what you find. It is so cringeworthy. It's when I read these statements, it honestly feels like I'm reading a hostage statement. I feel so sad for these people, because especially if they're white, they're like, this one guy, this poor kid. So usually it's in the context of a scientific paper that's being published. You know, the editor will say, we are now adopting this. You have to include this as part of your submission. And if you don't include it, they're probably just going to throw your research in the trash when you submit it. But if you are a student, like you're doing a PhD or a master's, some schools will force you to include this as part of your dissertation or thesis. So I can't imagine when you go to defend at the end, when you're finished all your research and you're basically presenting it, you're being interrogated, having to add this cringeworthy statement. This one I read, it was this poor kid. He was saying, you know, I'm white, I'm from the US, I have privilege in these ways. They went to, I think, Africa to do their research there. So he was talking about how he might have been privileged over the people he was studying. And then he went on to describe the characteristics of his research partner, who was also white, but he's saying she is a white woman who's from here and she had this, you know, socioeconomic status. And I just thought, this is so irrelevant, and it's also so uncomfortable that you would have to talk about your colleague in this way. And I just can't believe that there are people who are actually on board with this. So to me, science is completely lost. I don't know how it's going to come back from this, because I think the public is already extremely skeptical, as they should be. And so for me now, I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going rogue and just doing my own thing.